إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وتركنا على المحجة البيضاء. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وحبيبنا وقدوتنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Gracious, the Compassionate, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship, adoration, bowing, and prostration and gratitude except Allah, the Creator, Nourisher, and Sustainer of the heavens and the earth. And I bear witness of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as his final message. I begin by praising Allah Azza wa Jal and expressing gratitude to Him. I ask Allah that He grants us this deeply felt sense of gratitude to Him for all the blessings that we're aware of and those that we're not aware of, including the very fact that He has gathered us today in this blessed day of Friday, at the beginning of this blessed day, or this beginning of this blessed month of Rajab. And this is really a glorious month of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the fact that Allah has gathered us in this time to worship Him and devote ourselves to Him and thank Him is a gift to thank Allah. And I reflect with you today on what Allah has said about this extraordinary month, the months of Allah on this earth, that He has called or labeled to be one of those months that belong, in the what's called Ashhur al-Hurum, the sacred months of Allah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam distinguished this month by a special dua because He recognized the enormous gifts and the blessings that are contained in this month and the promise of Allah in this month. For indeed, it's only weeks away from the month of Ramadan. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned His hands up in this month, in these sacred days of Allah, and He said, Allahumma barik lana fi Rajab wa Sha'ban wa balighna Ramadan. He said, Ya Allah, bless this month of Rajab and the following month, Sha'ban, bless those 2 months for us, wa balighna Ramadan, and make us reach the month of Ramadan. And this dua is really significant and powerful because it speaks of the belief of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a promise of Allah. Allah Azza wa Jal wants to change our lives. Allah is capable. Allah can open doors and make a way out of our troubles and storms in this life. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recognized that in these sacred days there is a special blessing of Allah. There are secret treasures that only the believer who is conscious of Allah can see and can believe in the promise of Allah to deliver them to him or her. So he made that dua, asking that Allah opens those doors of those special treasures and blessings in these sacred months. May Allah grant us those powerful blessings and open the treasures of the heavens, because they're there waiting for us to just ask Allah to open their doors to all of us. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, brothers and sisters, was very keen in his life because he understood how fast life is moving, passing us by. He was so keen to ask Allah to open his heart and make him race towards good deeds in this life. And I want to take advantage of this opportunity today, not because it's just the month of Rajab, because we're weeks away from the month of Ramadan, but because Allah blessed us today, with the fact that our children have a half a day in school. So as you can see, there's a lot of children here in our midst. And this is a blessing of Allah, that Allah brought them here with their parents to witness this extraordinary, momentous occasion to worship Allah Azza wa Jalla. And I want to, inshallah, take these moments to reflect collectively, parents and children, on key meanings of what we can do in this special month of Rajab, on what it is that will make our lives great in the sight of Allah, on how to find strength. And this is a very key question. How to find strength and resilience in the midst of the storms that afflict us. We're aware of the storms. From the far east to the far west, of the wars and the diseases and the illnesses, and now coronavirus, right? Everybody's freaking out about the virus. And we're aware of the suffering of people, but we're also keenly aware of our own suffering and our own difficulties, and the very children that are sitting in our midst. We're very concerned about them, aren't we? We're very concerned about them and their future, but namely and specifically, and I say this as a father, I'm concerned about their ability to find resilience in their lives and strength so that they don't collapse, they don't fall apart in the midst of the storms that they're in, because we're not going to be always there for them. And within a beautiful story in the Quran, I found, consolation and solace for myself as a father, as a spouse, in the midst of our storms, where Allah points our attention to those before us who also found themselves in enormous storms, found themselves in situations where they have lost everything, where they had absolutely nothing, found themselves in scary moments, very scary moments. But within those moments where a human being can lose even their faith, their strength, where do you find that strength? Within the beautiful story of Musa alayhi salam, that Allah used to instruct Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, guide his heart, guide his mind, because he too sallallahu alaihi wasallam was facing enormous adversities and difficulties in his life. How would he lift him up? He would call his attention to those before him, who came before him, his brethren, right? And his sisters in faith, who found that strength in the most difficult moments of their lives. We find this extraordinary mention in Surah Al-Qasas about a time in the life of Musa alayhi salam. And we all need this. We all need it. We hear this story over and over, but we rarely reflect on its depth and relevance to our lives, including today. We find Musa at a time in his life where he had lost absolutely everything. Found himself lonely and terrified. We're aware of that story in Surah Al-Qasas, when Allah speaks of Musa having that incredible encounter with the army of Fir'aun, Fir'aun. Allah cursed him. Where Musa, later on, after he grew older, had that altercation with one of the people that belonged to the tribe of Fir'aun. And Musa was very strong. And Allah loves strength. Physical strength, strength of spirit, strength of soul, strength of heart. Any form of strength that Allah gives us, Allah loves it. Allah wants us to take advantage of it. Musa was endowed physically. And when he was defending the person who belonged to his tribe, he merely pushed the other man away. Just pushed him away. But his push was not like my push. He just pushed him, nudged him away, and that man fell and died. That's the strength of Musa alayhi salam. He didn't mean to kill that man. But guess what? Even that accident that happened unintentionally was part of a grand plan of Allah. Because it was about to usher in and commence a series of events in his life that he had no idea what they meant. That this very act that happened, the fact that someone died accidentally, was going to begin a journey in Musa's life that will take him to his destination. So it appeared to be, traumatic. It appeared to be a very unfortunate event. And indeed, Musa, when he realized he killed a man, he was overcome with grief. And he had no idea what to do. He turned to Allah and said, Ya Allah, forgive me. Allah instantly forgave him. Instantly. But what happened next is very scary. Fir'aun sends his entire army to capture Musa alayhi salam. Can you imagine that moment when you have a whole army, the police force, coming after you to capture you, and they had this vengeance against you? They wanted to get you, and suddenly there was an excuse now to get Musa. Lock him up and kill him. He realized what was happening, and someone he knew advised him to run away. Can you imagine this possibility in our lives? We have to now run away, flee for our lives. We have to leave our families behind. our resources, our homes, everything we've known, and run somewhere. And he had nowhere to go. But he realized that in order to save his own life, he had to run. And he indeed started to run, without having a clue about what's lying behind that veil of the future. No idea, no clue. And Allah captures this moment in the Quran, tells us about his struggles, about the darkness that he was in. And he says to us, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Surah Al-Qasas, that when Musa stood there, looking at the desert in front of him, where do you go? And this is very similar to our situations in life. We have no idea what to do or where to go. What do you do? Allah describes his psychological and spiritual condition. And he says, وَلَمَّا تَوَجَّهَ تِلْقَاءَ مَدْيَنَ. When Musa started looking in the desert, wondering where to go, what did he do next? قَالَ عَسَى رَبِّ أَن يَهْدِينِي سَوَاءَ السَّبِيلِ. I have no idea where to go. I have no idea what to do. He said to Allah Azza wa Jalla, because he looked at the heavens. And Allah tells us in the Quran, look at the sky above. Look at how wide it is. That heaven above us contains the treasures of Allah. Infinite, boundless treasures of Allah. It's a reminder of his power. It's a reminder of his knowledge. It's a reminder of his wisdom. And it's a reminder of how weak and tiny we are and how much we need Allah. Allah invites us to look at the heavens. And Musa realized instantly where his heart needed to look. He looked at the heavens. He said, Ya Allah, guide my steps to the most level way that can take me to my destination. I have no idea where to go. I have no idea where I should go. But I know that you're capable of Allah, guiding my heart, guiding my steps to go in the right direction. How often do we do this in life? When we're confused, when we're scared, when we're overwhelmed, saying, Ya Allah, speaking to Allah. Ya Allah, guide my heart, guide my steps. I have no idea where to go. I don't know what's good for me. It's istikhara. Seeking Allah's knowledge and power to guide you in the best way for you. Trusting that Allah will take you to the destination that you need to go to. And he started to walk not knowing where he would go. And indeed Allah guided his steps. And it was a difficult, arduous journey in the desert. He had nothing with him. And realized his pain because he left his home and his family behind. So can you imagine his grief? Carrying all that in his heart. And Allah, a few days later, would land him in Midian. And Allah describes what happens next. And describes to us how someone now who has lost everything, his life can turn around in an instant. In an instant, because Allah's capable. Allah's powerful. And that's the beauty of faith. So Allah describes next what happens. وَلَمَا وَرَدَ مَاءَ مَدْيَنَ وَجَدَ عَلَيْهِ أُمَّةً مِنَ النَّاسِ يَسْقُونَ وَوَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمَا امْرَأَتَانِ تَذُودَانِ قَالَ مَا خَطْبُكُمَا قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء وأبونا شيخ كبير. Beautiful conversation that happened at a location in Midian. He went into Midian as a stranger, immigrant stranger, without a home, without a shelter, without food or drink. Can you imagine? This is a prophet of Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yet Allah will put him in such a difficult situation, because difficult situations bring us up, toughen us, bring us closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, and there's purpose behind them. So he ends up in this strange town and he has no idea where to go, and he's looking around, and he finds a well of water. And Allah says what he sees. Allah says, Musa looked at the well of water and he found a group of shepherds, men, fetching the water from the well to give to their sheep. But he's looking further, trying to make sense of the scene, and he sees two women on a hill. Two strangers. He had no relationship with them, just as he had no relationship with that town. Tadudan. But what are they doing? They're pulling back on their sheep. They're not capable of moving, and they realize they cannot go down to the well. Musa understood that scene. He made sense of it. Okay, two women on a hill, bunch of rowdy men at the bottom fighting for water. What does that tell you? These two women cannot go down and fetch the water. What should he do? He's tired, he's fatigued, he had just a long trip in the desert. He has no home and he's a stranger, which means if he gets into any trouble, you know what will happen. He's not in a position to go and argue with someone, because he could be easily kicked out or locked up in prison. People don't know him. The question is, what does Musa do? Does he just mind his own business, say, it's none of my business, I'm just trying to here find shelter and safety. I don't want to seek trouble here in this town. But I see two women on a hill that apparently need help. They're strangers to me. But his heart compelled him right away to do what's right. And what was right in that situation? What would you do, brothers and sisters? You're in a strange town, you're demoralized, you're helpless, you're powerless, you have no food or drink, and you find two people who are desperate for some help, some relief. Musa instantly, because of his big heart, and Allah recorded this in the Quran, the goodness in his heart started to move. His compassion, his mercy, his courage. He didn't think of himself in that moment. He thought two strangers that needed me. He went to them right away. And he said, Ma khatbukuma, what is up with you? He didn't ask for their names, by the way. He said, hey, what's your name? Do you know who I am? I came from Egypt. You know Fir'aun. Sure heard of him, right? I'm the man who stood up to him. And they're after me right now. None of that. What is up? What can I do? They also answered him in a very modest manner. The two girls who were there by themselves without a man to defend them, they said, listen, we're here to fetch the water for the sheep and our father is an old man. That's it. Makes sense, right? We're explaining to you why we're here, because we have a need to be here. Our father is old. So we're here on his behalf. We don't have other members of the family to do this hard work here, to jockey with the other men, the other shepherds. So we came on his behalf, and that's it. That's it. They didn't say anything further. He understood. He took their sheep, brothers and sisters, and he went down to that well. Can you imagine how difficult that sea must have been for him? Bunch of rowdy shepherds who had no sensitivity, no kindness to even pay attention to the two women up there who needed help. Reminder of what can happen to the human being when they lose their values and ethics. Right? They didn't care. They cared about themselves. Musa stepped into that crowd, jockeyed around. He was a strong man, got access to the water, fetched the water, and fed the sheep. And the process must have taken some time, and when he was done, imagine his own condition, his own thirst. He didn't care. He brought the sheep back to the two women. He brought the sheep back to the two women, and he said, I'm done. Assalamu alaikum. That's it. Did he ask for anything? Nothing. What he did for the sake of Allah. What he did because it was the right thing to do. He stood up for those two women. He fought for strangers more than he would fight for himself. He helped them relieve someone who needed it in that moment. He had nothing else to do. Nothing else that he could do in that moment. And Allah describes what happens next. And there's a reason and a purpose why Allah Azza wa Jalla reports this in the Quran eternally. Because you and I need it. Because even Rasulullah Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam needed that. ثُمَّ تَوَلَّى إِلَى الظِّلِّ. Allah says, then he retreated into the shade. He went back to this tree. He had no shelter, no place to go. He went back to this tree and sat under a tree, a broken man, in a strange land. All he did was record a good deed for the sake of Allah. It was tiny. It appeared to be tiny, but it was big in the sight of Allah. When he sat under the tree, what do you do next? When we wonder, how do we relieve ourselves of our afflictions? How to get out of the storms? How do we swim out of a deep ocean and land on the shore? Here it is. He did what he was supposed to do, which is to exercise his capacity for good. The good that I can do right now is to go take care of these sheep for these two women. That's it. That's the opportunity that Allah just gave me. I'm not going to shy away from it. Then when he sat under the tree, he did something else. He understood that he needed to turn to Allah, to the heavens again. So he turned to the sky, to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and he made this dua that Allah recorded in the Quran, that you and I need. قال ربي إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. Very simple, powerful, concise dua. He said this. He said, Rabbi, my Lord, my Master, and it's a beautiful word to say, Rabbi. It links you up with Allah instantly. Rabbi in Arabic is a word that means someone who brings something up. So it's a word full of hope. When you say Rabbi, you're calling upon the creator and sustainer of the heavens and the earth. That's the most powerful thing we can hang on to in our lives, Rabbi, and to speak to him. Speaking to him. And Musa intimately spoke to Allah in that moment. He was broken. He was helpless. He was powerless. He just sitting down in his loneliness and turning to Allah saying, Rabbi, What does he say next? إِنِّي لِمَا أَنزَلْتَ إِلَيَّ مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَقِيرٌ. He said the very simple thing. He said, Ya Allah, I am poor and in need of any good you send me. That's it. You notice he didn't ask for a home. He didn't ask for a wife. He didn't ask for food. He didn't ask for drink. He didn't ask for anything. He said, Ya Allah, you're aware of my weakness. You know exactly what I'm going through. That's trust and faith in Allah. You're walking with me in this life. I am turning to you because you're my companion. That's essentially what he's saying. Ya Allah, I'm in need of any good because you're full of good. And the heavens are above him. He sees that. Ya Allah, I'm in need of any good from you. And then he was silent. You know what happens next? Allah is moving the heavens and the earth in our service. We just don't see it. We don't recognize it. That's why Allah is asking us to trust in his knowledge and his power. In the same time, because he did that sincere act, what was the power of that simple act that Musa did with these two women? These two women were so inspired. They were so moved. When somebody does something good and sincere and courageous, to stand up for someone, to do something merciful and kind, Allah does wonders. They went back home, and you can imagine what they did. They told the story to their dad. You cannot imagine what just happened. Yeah, our town is full of wicked, messed up people, right? That look like they have no good in them, right? But you know what? Allah's good. And Allah sends good people. And they told him the story about that good man who was a stranger. He said, Dad, this man came and helped us because the father must have asked, why are you back so early, right? And they explained what happened. They had that relationship with their father that they can tell him anything. So they told him the story and their father was blown away. And it's reported that that was the Prophet Shraim. He was so blown away, he instantly sent one of the girls to go fetch Musa. And again, he had that trust in his daughter because he raised her up to have faith. And she was modest and she had character. He had no trouble whatsoever to send her back to the town to get Musa. And she went back, and Allah records that as well. And he said, she came back to him ala istihya, with shyness and modesty, telling him, my father wants to talk to you and wants to repay you for what you have done. Now, Musa didn't play that game of like, not now, no, I don't need this. You know what? It said, no, like, okay, right now, I'll go, right? Opportunity from Allah Azza wa Jal. He didn't seek that, but when Allah opened that door, he rose up and walked in front of her all the way back to their home. And he got into that home and he sat with the father and had a conversation. And the father asked him, where are you from? What happened with you? And Musa begins to tell the story. And that's why the whole surah is called qasas, stories. We need stories in our lives to inspire us, to fulfill our potential, to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, to find the way out of our troubles. He tells him the story and Shu'aib was so comforting. He said, don't worry, you're safe. You're safe here. And then he tells him something. He was so impressed and inspired by this courageous, strong man who took care of his own daughters that he said to him, listen, I'll offer you something. I'll offer you a contract for a minimum of 8 years, up to 10, to work for me. And then one of the girls pulled her father on the side and she said, oh, father, he's a good man, strong. She said, strong, qawiyyun amin. She asked her father to indeed hire him, and she specifically mentioned 2 qualities. She said, oh, Dad, the best man that you can hire is the one who is strong and trustworthy. Can you imagine this young woman who was paying attention to these beautiful qualities? That's what gets us closer to Allah Azza wa Jal. That's what can make us have a great presence on this earth. Sincerity, strength, courage, and trustworthiness. These are a big deal, brothers and sisters. She said, oh, father, he has those 2 qualities. She didn't say he has a limousine. She didn't say he has a Porsche. She didn't say any of that. She said strong and trustworthy, modest man, good man, as if she was hinting, he would be a great husband for me. And the father understood. So when the father spoke to Musa, he said, Musa, not only would I offer you a job, I would offer you one of my daughters. Now what's Musa saying? Nah, I have something else in Egypt waiting for me. So Musa alayhi salam instantly said, yes, yes, yes. So can you think of this? Musa just minutes ago had nothing, lost everything. Broken man who lost his family, left his homeland. They were looking to kill him. All he did was a virtuous act for the sake of Allah. Then sat down and asked, said, Ya Allah. He didn't say, Ya Allah, why are you doing this to me? He didn't say, Ya Allah, I can't believe you messed me up, right? You give me such a hard time in life. He said, Ya Allah, just look at me. Give me some good. Because you're full of good. That's it. Instantly, Allah delivered to him the following. Look at how he changed his life. Delivered to him a job for 10 years. A shelter and a home. And on top of this, a wife. And a good one. All that in return for what? A good act that he did for the sake of Allah. Because he was a good man. Because he turned to Allah with full trust and faith that Allah owns the heavens and the earth. That Allah can make a way out with the word kun. You know what kun is? Be. When Allah says be, it is. But when Allah afflicts us with difficulties, they're also meant to toughen us and make us better and closer to Allah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to make us walk in the footsteps of Prophet Musa and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. You know, when I reflect on this beautiful story, and every single time I come across it, I say, I need that dua. I need that dua, because we oftentimes do good deeds, but we forget to take a moment after the deed and have a conversation with Allah. So whatever good deed we do, it's a gift from Allah. And this is the month of Rajab. What can build us up in life and allow us to face the storms and the difficulties in life is these moments with Allah. The opportunities, because life is short. Life is so short. Can't believe it's already Ramadan coming, right? SubhanAllah, how fast time is flying by. And Allah says the successful, those who are ahead, those who are the heroes in the sight of Allah are the ones who fill their books with amazing good deeds. Whatever it is that we're capable of offering right now, it's an opportunity from Allah. But also thought of this from our own children. And I said, SubhanAllah, in their storms, in their difficulties in this life, because guess what, brothers and sisters, our children, they're going to continue to face difficulties in this life and many storms, and they're not going to go away. How do we nurture in them the resilience, the strength, the faith that they can follow and walk in the footsteps of Musa alayhi salam? If we're constantly sheltering them from difficulties, they're not going to mature. Isn't it true? When we're constantly trying to protect them, or what will happen when we leave this earth? Will they be the custodians of this faith? Will they be the protectors and the healers and the ones who roll up their sleeves to defend the weak and heal the sick, etc., etc., etc.? No, they can't. They can't. And wallahi, today, as I said at the beginning, I'm especially grateful to Allah Azza wa Jal because He gathered our children with us today to witness this moment with Allah Azza wa Jal. And I want to tell you about something amazing that a close brother, friend did in this community not too long ago. He's gathered a few children around him and recognizing the difficulties they go through, especially as they're getting older in middle school. Because, you know, the deal with middle school, things change from elementary school. There's a lot of bullying that is happening. Lots of bullying, lots of name calling, lots of demonization of each other, right? Kids start using foul language, disrespecting their parents, doing things that we cannot imagine. How do you protect these children? How do you nurture those values and the strength and the faith in them? Guess what? Children need each other. They need good role models in them. So this brother, may Allah bless him and reward him for this initiative. He gathered a few children and he said to them, you know what? We're going to start a group. And indeed, a group started. And the group represented incredible values that I myself saw in the story of Musa alayhi salam. Faith, God consciousness, strength and courage. Values of knowing how to stand up for other kids who are bullied. Because when that kid is bullied, who's going to stand up for him? When someone is being distracted by the countless distractions, how will they remember Allah in that moment and make dua to Him and have an intimate conversation? So alhamdulillah, a new group formed, brothers and sisters. And by Allah, the title given to this group is a title that reminds you of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. And what is the title given to the group? SubhanAllah, you're going to see it written on some shirts in front of you. Merciful Warriors. Merciful warriors. Look at Musa alayhi salam. What was he? A warrior. Fighting for people he didn't know more than he fought for himself. That's courage. That's strength. That's faith. And how often do we see that in our lives? You know those two girls and their father? We're making dua for some healing, for some help, for some relief. Allah sent them Musa. Can you imagine that our children are the ones who are standing up? We're having that faith and trust in Allah Azza wa Jal, who will lead the way, who are proud of their faith. Alhamdulillah, for this group, it's for middle schoolers. And I'm going to ask a few of our children to stand up because they're wearing the shirts. And I really want to applaud them and our dear brother Zach for starting this group. Stand up. Stand up. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Take care. Turn around. The group, inshallah, is expanding. I'm going to call it a movement, inshallah. Because these children need to belong to something. And alhamdulillah, they're coming to the masjid more. They're proud of their faith. They're proud of Allah. They're proud of belonging to this faith. And it's exactly what we're doing at the ICCP, brothers and sisters. I'll talk to you some more, inshallah, after the salah about this. But even this barn that you're seeing right now, one of the key goals that we have for this is to provide a space for the children. That they can come and gather and meet, help and encourage and strengthen each other. Being mentored, inshallah, by the brothers and sisters who are there for them in our community. Wallahi, it's a noble cause. This is why we're here, brothers and sisters. May Allah bless all of them. May Allah strengthen you. Ameen, ameen, ameen. We're proud of you. I swear, we're proud of you so much. You have no idea. And we want this community of brothers and sisters to continue to invest in this. Because this is why we're here on this earth. When we leave, we are leaving them behind. What are we leaving them with? Think about that question as we continue to go through this month of Rajab, but also as we look towards Sha'ban and Ramadan. This is our mission and investment. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to enable us to lead the way for our children. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to make us role models. We ask Allah to grant us and plant in our hearts that faith and trust in Him. To grant us the blessings and the abundant provision that He has provided Musa and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah to guide us to the straight path and to guide our children. We ask Allah to relieve us of our afflictions and to relieve our brothers and sisters across this earth who are facing enormous suffering and enormous hardships. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ighfir lana warhamna wa'fu anna wa tawalla amrana wa ahsan khalasana واختم بالباقيات الصالحات أعمالنا. ربنا إننا لما أنزلت إلينا من خير فقراء. ربنا إننا لما أنزلت إلينا من خير فقراء. ربنا إننا لما أنزلت إلينا من خير فقراء. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. وأن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا عدد رحمه الله. Bring your mic. الله أكبر. الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. فلما نودي يا موسى إني أنا ربك
أنا ربك فاخلع عليك إنك بالوادي المقدس طوى وأنا اخترتك فاستمع لما يوحى إنني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري إن الساعة آتية أكاد أخفيها لتجزى كل نفس بما تسعى. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ولما توجه تلقاء مدين قال عسى ربي أن يهديني سواء السبيل. ولما ورد ماء مدين وجد عليه أمة من الناس يسقون ووجد من دونهم امرأتين تذودان قال ما خطبكما قالتا لا نسقي حتى يصدر الرعاء وأبونا شيخ كبير فسقى لهما ثم تولى إلى الظل فقال رب إني لما أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله رحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala. Quick inshallah announcements. There was very important. First, one of our family members, Brother Sheikh Hamid, is very ill, is in the process of recovering, asking for dua, inshallah. Allah Azza wa Jalla grant him cure and healing instantly. Allah Azza wa Jalla give him the strength. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. And also a brother by the name of Anis Zaman, in an accident and is in ICU recovering. Also ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to grant him full healing and recovery, and to strengthen him and his family. Halaqah tonight for Brother Tarif at 7:30. 6 a.m. inshallah, we'll resume with the halaqah series in the Quran, Surah Al-Tur, 6 a.m. Time change for Fajr, inshallah, join us. Last but not least, I alluded to the barn project and the significance of it, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in relation to this announcement. Alhamdulillah, a generous member of our community is offering a match dollar for dollar for any donation. Any donation we can make from today until April 20th, right before the month of Ramadan starts, specifically to support youth programs. And as you're aware, we're going to be dedicating, inshallah, that future space primarily really for youth activities, in addition to other things. So the brother is so keen on this, and inshallah, on supporting the youth programs. And you know very well that that's a key part of. We're asking you, brothers and sisters, especially in light of the story I shared today. Wallahi, when we offer something for the sake of Allah, especially for worthy, noble causes, and what's more noble and worthy than our children, and inshallah, creating the spaces that they need, so that they can, inshallah, come and gather and learn, on strength with each other. We're asking for your help, inshallah. Every dime you can give today, make an intention like Musa alayhi salam, that Allah relieves you of your afflictions with it. And after you donate today, put it, inshallah, in the masjid bin, outside, or if you write a check or give cash, inshallah, make it for the masjid, because it's going to be matched dollar for dollar, up to $50,000. Who knows? Maybe we'll raise the 50 today, right? And it will be doubled up. We'll suddenly have $100,000. Imagine the weight of that, brothers and sisters, impacting our children. After you've done the, inshallah, the charitable donation, what should you say? Rabbi, inni lima أنزلت إلي من خير فقير. The dua of Musa recorded in Surah Al-Qasas, verse 22-23. Go check it out there. Memorize this dua and expect, inshallah, great gifts from Allah Azza wa Jal and relief to come to you. Oh Allah, we're in desperate need of any good from you. Please, brothers and sisters, on your way out, make a generous contribution, inshallah, for the barn and supporting the youth activities and programs. Barakallah fikum. May Allah accept from all of you. Anything else? The verse is 24 Surah Al-Qasas. Memorize it and teach it to your children. Barakallah fikum. And I, subhanAllah, can't wait to have my brother Imam Johari right here.
Hi.